Hello again. This time I am working on this Giratina card from the Platinum set. This card was number 10 out of 127 and was released in October 2008 in Japan, and the English set came out in February 2009. This set was an expansion to the Diamond and Pearl sets, and primarily featured Pokémon from the Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum saga of video games. The video game Pokémon Platinum actually came out 6 weeks after this set did, and so this set was based on a lot of changes that took place, including Giratina's altered form and its origin form, both being included in the game. And this was also the set that Shaman made his debut in the TCG. I do also want to point out that this card was available in both a holo version, which had the galactic holofoil that most of us know when we think of a holofoil card. It had these bright star holographic bursts all over the art. And then the other version was this version, which is the reversed holofoil version. The holographic version of this card actually obscured a lot of the background in the artwork, so I didn't really want to use that one, and instead I opted to use this reverse holofoil. And usually when I work with reverse holofoil cards, I try to incorporate the holo into the card, but that's not really the way I wanted to take this one. So instead, I just ended up painting over the whole card, and there aren't any holographic parts to the card once it's finally completed at the end. The artwork on this card was originally illustrated by, I'm gonna butcher this, Hajime Kusajima, I believe. And their name actually appears on 209 separate English cards that I could find, and these cards all include all kinds of variations, so they may not have illustrated exactly 209 separate artworks, but their name is on 209 different cards. These could be reverse holos, regular holofoils, alternate text cards, etc. The first card that I could find in English with their name on it was Alakazam from EX Expedition. And this artist is also really well known for illustrating a lot of iconic cards, the main sets being Aquapolis and Skyridge, two extremely sought after and expensive sets to complete. One extremely notable card that they illustrated from those sets was the Crystal Ho-Oh card. This card is extremely rare and extremely sought after, and a PSA 9+ graded in English usually goes for around $900 to $1,000. But anyways, Kusajima still illustrates cards to this day, their most recent being the Scyther card from Celestial Storm. The toughest part for me with this card was probably trying to complete the Giratina itself. One of the hardest parts about doing these alters is when part of the Pokemon is hanging off of the art box, so you actually have to paint on like their different appendages. In this case, the bottom portion of Giratina and his wings were all cut off from the original artwork, so I actually had to paint all of those on by hand. And the reason this is so difficult is because I have to make sure that the color matches the original artwork to the best of my ability, and I also have to try to match the style. So the entire time that I'm painting, I'm re-referencing the original artwork and trying to mimic the colors and the shading and the lighting and bringing that into what I'm adding to the top of the card. Now, normally this is already pretty difficult, but with this card, because so much of the Giratina that is missing is black, it's doubly hard for me. Black is a really hard color for me to match, simply because when you paint acrylic and allow it to dry, the color is actually a lot lighter than what it will look like after you gloss the card at the end. So I actually, in my mind, I have to compensate for the fact that these colors will darken up once I gloss it. They may look a little off, like the blues look like they are too bright to belong, but at the end, it'll all darken up a lot and it'll all match properly. I also just wasn't really sure what direction I wanted to take this card in the end. I knew I wanted to have some sort of mountain range at the bottom, and so what I ended up doing was referencing a lot of concept art of Giratina. So in the actual video game, Giratina lives in an area called the Distortion World, and I knew I wanted to try to reference that, but it's kind of hard to imagine how to paint a place called the Distortion World. So I, again, looked back at the video games, and in Platinum, the Distortion World was this area with a bunch of weird gravity and messed up landscapes. And so what I ended up doing was doing the mountains that I knew I wanted and trying to make them look jagged and, well, distorted. And just a few other things about Giratina while I'm painting in the background. His Pokedex entry in Platinum says, "He was banished for its violence. It silently gazed upon the old world from the distortion world." There's some trivia out there about how Giratina is supposed to be based off of Satan, and how he represents the fallen angel. So Arceus in the Pokemon world is basically God, and he sent Giratina to the distortion world because of his bad behavior and his renegade attitude. The only thing I could find online about his actual origin story was on Bulbapedia, and it just says that Junichi Masuda, in an interview, said that Giratina was just the personification of antimatter. But there you go, there's a little trivia about Giratina that you may or may not have known. So at the very end here, I decided to add some lightning just to further along this whole distortion, crazy antimatter universe that this Pokemon lives in. I figured lightning would be something chaotic and dangerous that would add some more depth to the card. And that about wraps it up. This card was definitely not the type of style that I'm used to working with. I usually do nice, bright, scenic landscapes and such, but I still think it represented Giratina pretty well in the end after all. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this and you want to see more, make sure to check out all my other videos, and I have a bunch of social media links down below if pictures are more of your style. So please check those out if you have a chance, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.